moving. Yeah, so it's a VNC connection. This is a server setup. Okay, this is a server we're trying to replicate your setup. So this is a Debian inside here. It already has here running the radio. So this is how it looks. You've actually got beacons coming. So all of these settings and all of these options are explained on the user manual, in the user manual. We'll go through them. If you have any more questions, you can always ask. So the first thing we just said, actually, I can close. If this is closed, it doesn't work. So you need to keep this one open. So this is exactly the same software as you have on the ground station. So it looks like this on the ground stations. You come to ISIS, and there's here the view transceiver. It opens up. You see on the top here, there's no radio selected. So the first thing you have to do is select the radio. And then it's kind of locked because it's loading firmware. And sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. So you see that it's working because this signal level is here moving. And the quality of signal is also the quality of signal is also moving. So this has a signal level here. Then we have a tuning option. So it tells you based on the frequency we set, how far away the signal actually is. It moves a bit randomly when you don't have a signal. You have downlink options. So you specify the scheme, you specify the data rate, and you specify the frequency. When you set the frequency, you put set. You need to press the set button.
So every time we open this program, we have to redo this again?
No. So this is run in the computer, the first of all. But now the computer is shut down, right? Because it's ready for shipment. My colleagues, when they go there for installation, they will open the program, they let it go. And what I'm showing you here is what the program allows. You do not have to operate this. This is automated from the LGS server. I'm just showing you how it works, what can be done. But none of this needs to be done during operations.
So this one is like a LGS controller. Is it?
This is the radio part. So this is the blue. And after we're going to see
is
the LGS
this like a
controller.
software-defined radio
Exactly.
interfaces?
Yes. So here we have exactly the same thing for uplink. Some schemes. The data rate. As you see here, the data rate can go up to 9,600 9,600 beats per second. That's the maximum we have for VHF, UHF. You can change the power of transmission. So this matches also with the datasheet specs in terms of 40 dB or 50 or 40 and 30. 40 and 50. So this is the wattage. 10 watts or 100 watts of transmission. This you can change here. And again the frequency.
The data rate, why do we have to set lower than 96?
So it's easier to establish link with a satellite on a lower data rate because you can use more frequency space to encode the same information. So in the beginning of a path, we always use the lowest possible, and then
we can adjust after that.
you can adjust. For instance,
After the satellite has established the connection, we can adjust.
yes, obviously you need to change in the satellite and in the ground, on the ground. So we're gonna change that on the mission control. We're gonna practice that.
So first you set the satellite to 1200, and then set the ground to 1200 so they can link.
Yeah.
And then you change to 96 and ground to 96. Okay.
We don't do that all passes, so it depends on how good a pass is. If it's really over your sky, then you can push the highest rate. We have sometimes here passes like 80 degrees elevation only.
So that's when 1000.
You just keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you just keep it. But if you have, or if you just want to send a few commands, you can also keep it at 1200. If you want to download a lot of stuff, we're not talking about images or files. But if you want to download a lot of telemetry, a lot of health checks, then we pick a higher pass. You can push the data rate higher, and then it's faster. It's really fast because it's 2 times, 4 times, 8 times faster. It really makes a difference.
What if we forgot what had been set on the satellite, the data rate?
Yeah, so one of the commands we're going to try on the mission control
What if we
center.
forgot? Oh, I forgot.
If you forgot, if you forgot, you will not be able to decode the radar. So, but it's easy to spot because you start seeing that the data is not coming down.
So-
Then you start thinking,
So I have to randomly pick up some data, right?
no, you know which one is that. If you make a mistake, this is easy to spot. But it should be
The satellite will actually send the telemetry to us first, right? Like
yeah. So satellite is I'm not sure what Google covered yesterday. The satellite is a thing called a beacon. It's like you do for boats, right? So when the satellite comes, it activates these beacons. So it's sending some, which is what we're seeing here. Actually, if I set this up
and the
properly,
beacon includes the data rate.
the beacon.
ผมไม่ลืมแล้วพี่
So the satellite is by default a certain data rate. So when the satellite is delivered, it's by default the lowest bit rate. Therefore, we also deliver the ground station with the lowest bit rate. And then you can change it to how much you want. If the satellite resets, then you kind of go the satellite reset, so you change it to the lowest one.
Okay.
But this one is a very easy problem to spot. It's a user operator problem because if we put the wrong data rate, it won't decode. So you can say, okay, it's not decode. I see the signal because you can see the signal. It's not decoding. What's up? So we can show you here. It has a FFT. So now there's no signal. If I put the frequency that I know the satellite is transmitting right now, so we have a setup over there. So you see here. But if you see, so it comes in beacon, so it comes a bit and then it goes down again. It comes a bit. But if you notice, so you have here RX terminal which says 0. It means it's not decoding anything, which means my settings here are wrong. So now if I go to change my settings, I think it's this one. The set is just for the frequency, so the drop down works fine, but you can always press again, sure. See, now I got the 1, 2, 3. So if you have the wrong scheme or the wrong, now I can change the data rate and you won't decode it again.
Can you
So
set it auto?
You mean to scan it?
Yes.
Yeah, that I cannot.
No? Just like TV when you set auto.
I scan the next one. You need to send the TV up then. So
What about the polarization? You have to
Yeah.
adjust it on fly.
you can change this on fly. Sometimes, I mean, now we have a good link, so if I change it, it won't affect anything. It's pretty much the same. You can also change for transmission, although that you cannot visualize here, but you transmit in a different polarization. But wrong polarization just makes the wave smaller and difficult to decode. But if it's good enough, regardless of the polarization, it will work.
How much dB that we lost if we choose the wrong?
It depends on the day, it depends on the interferences on the ground. It's really not a fixed number. Some days here we can work with either. Some days the ascension node we can only work on right hand. It's really local interference. Yes, it's not decoding because I put the wrong one, and now I'll decode more. Here it will list the packets. This is the packets demodulated, so they will also be encrypted. At this stage, you're still encrypted because this radio does not have the decryption key. So it specifies here where it comes from. So we have a TRX VU transmitting to Earth. Somebody picked that name. It says that the checksum is good, and it checks the RSSI, the error, the noise to signal ratio.
Who do the encryption? Is it a standard encryption or the programmer at ISIS do the encryption?
That I can't answer. I don't know. I'll ask.
Thank you.
The key in any case is set by us, but the encryption technique, I'm not really sure. I'll check. Yeah, so this increases, and you see it's very difficult to see the change. You can clean this actually. If I do right click, clear. So you can see more stuff come. So if you come up, you can also put on ASCII output. And when the next one will come, there we go. So in ASCII it comes with all these weird settings because we're not transmitting ASCII information, we're transmitting numbers. So I decode this.
So we receiving telemetry from TRX.
Exactly.
Right, real time now?
Say again?
Real time now?
Yes, so we have a satellite on the other room over there. It's
Oh,
transmitting
okay.
right now. Yes, we set it up now.
Or the other room.
Yeah, it's in that room over there. We can walk by it a bit. It's just a satellite and the computer equivalent.
What is the lowest RSSI that the receiver able to receive? From here, I see like minus 143, and it says the quality of signal is like 25%.
Yeah, but 25, we can push the satellite and the ground for higher. If it's lower than 90% or lower than 85, it's not good enough, it won't lock. But you can always try. If we do that all the time. We push the satellite higher, we push the ground higher, and then suddenly we're not decoding anymore. Okay, then that day the link is not good, and we push it down again.
That's it. So when we try to adjust these kind of parameters, everything is locking in the system, or we just, when we change something and the previous data lost. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, like
in terms of configuration,
we try to just adjust everything, and then somehow we receive the signal, sometimes we lose the data, and all the data that we receive are stored in the system. I mean.
So in terms of the ground, that's what we're going to check on the automation tool on the LGS. It has one setting. That's the one that is saved. So if during a pass you change stuff here, it's not saved. So if you like, oh, this one is really good, then you need to go to the LGS and put it as default. So the LGS is a default configuration that it will use every time a satellite comes. So every time, even if you like this one, when the satellite comes again, it's going to put again the default one. In terms of the satellite also has different kinds of memories. So if something happened, it goes back to that default that you get to check with the satellite site in terms of the commands you can send and what is default and what is not default. And there's default operational, and there's default when the satellite restarts. Satellite restarts, there's a certain default, and normal, it's another. I think it's another default. In terms of, if you're asking in terms of history, what you changed on the ground tool. So this guy here, we're going to check tomorrow. This logs everything the operator does. So you can trace back what has changed here, but here is satellite stuff. In terms of the ground, I'm not sure if there's a log on a change on the ground. There's a log on the LGS part, but not on this one, I think. But the operator itself, everything is logged. So, what have I missed? Log means it logs the frames, so the content here on this window to a file. Usually we don't need that, it just uses memory, so we don't usually have it on. Pause display, it will stop adding packets here, so it might scare you that you're not getting stuff. You're still getting stuff. So the polarization as you've been through, uplink settings, downlink settings. You also get the actual data rate that he's sensing. So this is the official standard that you use for computation, but then in practice it oscillates a bit. All this panel here on this side is not used for operations, or you can actually use it for operations, but it's not the purpose. This is used for debugging. So what we usually do is you can text here anything, and when you press send, actually that's a good thing, it should up. On amateur frequencies, you need to have a call sign. Not sure if who of you is familiar with amateur operations. So because there's so many amateurs and everything is open, you need to have a call sign. So the protocol itself requests a call sign. So that's what you need to input here. I'm pretty sure our colleagues on their install, they'll set this up already. It doesn't mean this call sign, it's not the way to decode the information. So you still have encryption on top of this, so they will not decode. It's just the protocol expects certain characters for this call sign. Which I think it's Alex letters, RTF1. He just asked one, then it doesn't ask anymore. But see, now I get transmission here. Which actually outputs, must be output, not here. Hello world, which is all the time. Send. There you go. See, now you can actually read. I'm not using encryption, without encryption. So this lists everything you'll comment. Even if you comment from here, it will be listed here. But obviously the problem here is that you need to exactly send the hexadecimal streams that the satellite wants. Nobody wants to do that. So we don't need to touch this part at all. It's just to check if actually it's transmitting. All the commands will come from the mission control. Yeah. Any questions so far?
So you transmit from that.
No, from this computer I'm just connecting to the computer. Come again. We're transmitting from a...
No, the hello. Uploading from this laptop.
I'm still not. I'm commanding. This is another laptop. You see I'm connecting via VNC to another place. So I'm connecting to the computer over there. And that computer is transmitting. So here I don't have antennas. There is where I have the antenna. But this is what you'll be able to do because the computer is going to be installed on your basis somewhere. If you have the IP of that computer, then you can VNC, you can do anything. It looks like I'm on that computer when I'm not. This is a setup from some beaconies from a setup we have there. It comes in 3 beacons, so it comes in packs of 3. The frequency or how often or how close they come, it depends on your satellite. I'm not sure what is that. Yeah, there's also this bar I can show you. The bar doesn't have any technical effect, it just changed the display. So it moves, it kind of disappears, it just moves the signal, you see? You can simply adjust. But yeah, so this is the first of the interactions. This one needs to be open. You can minimize, that's fine. If I get the mouse. And it just keeps running, 24 hours, no problems. And it's just there. There, I think I have, yeah, I got on the other computer. The thing is, this bar gets readjusted during a pass because there's Doppler shift. You're going to see this pass automatically moving. Depends on which side. It will move throughout the spectrum because the LGS is controlling it because you're going to see the signal moving. So this adjustment here you cannot do on the when you're running normally. So it's a feature of this radio, but it's not useful when you're doing operations. So that's the last thing on this one. If we get, so menu, we have here the ISIS components like we saw, and now we have the LGS controller. Should we go forward or do you want a coffee break? Break time. The radio is running in the same computer. My radio, I mean this software. This guy is running. Therefore, I have here the green ticks. If for some mistake I decide or I incorrectly close this one, then I get crosses. So the maintenance person or the operator who is checking this can tell, oh, the radio, something's wrong. The radio is not connected. So if I open the radio again, so now it's green. Green means that the software is running. But also watch out that we have not selected the radio yet. This needs to be done. It's also covered in the user menu. So now that we're good here. Also, if for some reason you move this out, it will show cross because you put the wrong port. But we never need to change this. All good. So this is the first page, is just connections. You can always disconnect. Nothing happens, nothing stops working, everything is fine. It's just you don't get to see what's happening. So, the first step is the satellites. It's going to have a list of satellites here, which we're going to set the configuration. So here we're going to set the default configuration we talked about before. What do we expect the satellite to have when it comes over the horizon? So I'm going to demonstrate now, but you guys are going to be able to do this on the laptop, in the laptops here. So now just to demonstrate, you have a plus here, you add a satellite, you name it whatever you like. And you have to have a catalog number, because the catalog number is the NORAD ID. It's how we get the two-line element, and that's how it predicts. The software needs to predict it. You don't have, for the RTF satellite, we don't have it yet because it's not launched, but we pick another one. I can randomly try something. It could work. And then we add a radio. So you can have multiple radios in the same satellite. It's possible, right? So you can have them multiple here. For now, I'll keep one. And we specify the frequency. So the frequency that we are using in that setup over there. And for 149. You can also pick here the modulation schemes according to what the radio allows. And now that everything is here, you press save here in the bottom. So this will have to be done every time you want to add a new satellite to the list, but then it's done. You don't need to touch it anymore. If for some reason you decide to change the frequency of the satellite permanently, then you come here, you change the default. Okay, from now on it's going to have a new frequency. But this can just stay. It's just a configuration tool. Maybe I don't have internet. Which I do. Yeah. Let's put the known number. Not connected. Anyway, there is a problem now. I'm not connecting to the internet. Don't have TV. Well, I'll check it in a bit. We have here the radio information. So the same thing that is indicated here. See, now we actually have 401, and there we have 149 on the uplink here. We also have it here. So here says 401, 149. This is just duplicate information, so you wouldn't have to see on the other page. You can see everything on the controller. Then we have a tab for the rotor. Now I put it virtual, so what you have installed is the last option. It has these settings depending on the port you have connected, which now I don't have any rotor, so it doesn't work. And this works in the same way as we all have the virtual. So virtual one which doesn't connect to any real life rotor. So enable and disable means the rotor is indicated, but for some reason you might want to disconnect it because somebody's going on site or because something wrong is happening. You just disable means we're not commanding the rotors.
So you can have the user manual provided.
For this part, for the ground station, yes, that's the blue folders I gave to some of you. The ground station part is user manual. Not so the what we talk tomorrow, tomorrow and after tomorrow, it does not have a user manual. But for today, it has, yes. So as moment you enable, you get to see the rotor status. So now it's parked. We can change here the parking position. So these are two settings. You can decide what are the parking positions you like in your location. If I change to 100 degrees and I save, the rotor see the red line here, it moves. So this is a representation of what actually happens in real life.
So what the parking is the best one to save the hardware?
Say again?
Like the parking position is in the parking of the antenna, right? And
yeah, so the recommendation usually is to put elevation 0. So the antennas are vertical, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that right?
Yeah, now I'm confused. Parking zero. It's software, girl. I know the software side, not the hardware side.
Okay, okay.
The azimuth you should choose is the azimuth of the most likely wind direction. So you have it.
So we have to adjust that every day according to
No, an estimation. The overall, I mean, in Europe, wind is mostly from the north, so we align them with the north. Not sure how it works
Yeah,
there.
okay.
It's like home position, right?
Yeah, home position. Yes.
So in Thailand we have two seasons, one in the north, one in the south. So
Yeah, then
it's
they would
just
say
according to the season.
Exactly. 6 months you put somewhere, 6 months you put some other way. It's just because if the antennas are really against the wind, it might cause more
Yes, something like that.
more degradation. That's the word. More degradation or more offsets on the rotors. So it's better if you park them aligned so that the wind goes through them.
What about warm up and cooling down?
Exactly. So
It means that you have to warm up before you go into the mission.
warm up and cool down is not the percent in terms of temperature. Is to compensate for any TLE, for any prediction incorrections. So imagine that it says that the satellite is going to come up at 11:10:44 seconds. If we just point at 44 seconds, imagine that the satellite was actually there 10 seconds before, because our prediction or the two-line element is too late. So what we do is, okay, we know this is the time we think it comes, but these guys warm up 180 seconds before, we'll point it there already. For instance, we have a ground station on the top of the TU Delft. Sometimes we get a link when there's negative elevation, because it's so high, even if it's negative, we can have. So we use this warm-up time, it's already link time. We can easily change this. So
How can we pick which one is the optimized number of warm up?
I mean, if you just have a satellite, you can put as big as a number as you want, right? The problem is if you put a really big number, if you have two satellites and one is just finishing, and then you need to see, okay, when are you going to swap? But in your case, if you just have one satellite, I mean, 1 minute, half a minute is more than, what's this? 2 minutes a little bit more. It's too much. This is just default setting. We usually work with 90 or something.
This is the question. Like Thailand is very hot, and the warm up time should be a bit less.
But this warm-up time is not about the temperature. It's not about the temperature. It's about if it's there already before the satellite comes. And the same thing for the cool down. Okay, our TLEs are saying the satellite goes away in 10 seconds. But maybe the TLEs are a bit outdated. Maybe the US got delayed on their prediction. And so if we keep the rotors pointing a bit longer, we might get still a command in or the telemetry down. So it's about time. We call it warm up and cool down, but it's mostly about time.
Martha, I have a question. If you want to receive data from like more than one satellite, do you have like a scheduling for the
Exactly.
or
We'll go.
they have?
Yeah, so what we can do here,
Oh, wait, before you go. The first one. Periodic calibration of the frequency in hour.
yes, so we were just asking me. So this is what we're talking about in terms of the rotors get out of calibration over time. So we set up here the periodic calibration in terms of hours. Our default is 12, sometimes use 6. You can always manually calibrate. You see there's a button here for calibrate. This periodic calibration means the software is prepared every 12 hours, it will calibrate. If there is a pass during that time, you will wait. When the pass ends, then it calibrates.
It
So it
means
will not
it's
destroy.
calibrate the oscillator inside the radio.
No, so it's about the rotors are, so it rotates azimuth. It rotates like this, but you might get offset. So what it does, it comes to what did you call it for? Like the parking position. It has a hardware switch, and with the hardware switch, detects, okay, I'm actually reading the numbers wrong, and it resets to the right reading. It's to calibrate the reading on the rotors. Yeah, we do sometimes 6 hours, sometimes 12 hours. And you can see when you calibrate the rotors, I'm pretty sure our colleagues were going to show you that during the installation. You can see when you calibrate how much was the offset, how wrong was the readings. If when you do it, the reading was almost good, then you don't need to do that often. If when you do it it was like a 2 degrees, okay, 3 or 4 degree error, maybe we need to do more often. But 6 hours, 12 hours seems to be what we usually use. So that's the periodic calibration for the rotors. Warm-up time is how much time is pointing before the satellite comes. The cool-down time is how much time it keeps there before going home, before parking. And then you specify the parking positions. And then also you have here below the last time the rotors were parked. It says here. In terms of buttons, so disable means you're not commanding anything. So imagine you're going through a pass and you're actually seeing the rotors and something is wrong. The cables are messed up for some reason because there was wind or something. It never happens. But if there is something, you can immediately here disable the rotors. The software keeps thinking there's a pass. The software will have the radios ready, but the rotors don't work for safety.
Just stop.
Just stop, yeah. So you can calibrate. Now in the virtual, I'm not sure if it's going to work. Just calibrate it with the weight. But on your actual physical rotors, it will just go to 0, a little bit below 0 actually, and then it will go back to the parking position. You can always calibrate manually. And if you change anything, just don't forget to save.
Does the rotor know when it hits something? Like somehow accidentally people around there,
Yeah.
it hits people.
Yeah, that's why we talked about the safety the clearance area. You should not walk in the rotor. You should always push down the button, because even as a maintenance person, you go into the rotors, but there's a person in the operations room pressing buttons and changing stuff. So although you can disable here, you should always go on the switch, on a hardware switch, and push it off. And also the radio, because you can always transmit when the satellite is not there, because the link is open. So you should force the hardware not to transmit, so it doesn't give you any problem. You should be very careful. And when it's operation, you should have a perimeter, like people should not go them. They might get that. So that's for the rotors. It shows on there's a warning sign up there saying that something is not good, so it means I don't have them enabled. When I enable, the yellow sign goes away. For configuration, you have the name of the station. So we sent to you, I'm not sure if for any of you, a list of questions on how you want to call the ground stations. I'm not sure if it's for any of you. The names chosen was mostly primary station, secondary station. So that's the name that displays here. That's the name the software recognizes. And you identify latitude, longitude, and altitudes. I think I picked the airport ones. I might have got wrong in any case. But this latitude and longitude is used by the software to predict when the satellite is coming. So when the satellite comes over this place.
How accurate that we should put the coordinates here?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like we can have more accurate.
Yes, you can always change. See, I can add it here. So once this is installed,
is it better to put the more accurate
sure.
coordinates?
Yeah. If you have better coordinates, sure, exactly. Because this is internet values. So yeah, once it's installed. And we were talking about if you want to swap, if a rack doesn't work and you want to move one rack to the other location, then you need to change because the coordinates change.
Like in this day, we have until 6 digits for the coordinates.
I think you lost 6 decimal.
Is it affect to the system? To have
that's why I'm not sure. It might not be that. But in any case, to cover that, we have the warm-up time and the cool-down time.
Oh, I see.
So at least I think 2 decimal digits are important. At least 2. The other ones I'm not really sure. And the altitude as well, because if it's in a really high location, like we have over there, we have better link. So also, if you have altitude number, also specify that. So the next one is integrator. This is the algorithm that is used to compute when a satellite comes. This is the international default. There's minimal change if you change it, but we just leave it. Minimum elevation. In some locations in the world, if the ground station is between mountains, let's say, and you already know, below 10 degrees, we're not going to get anything. So you can already specify, do not consider any pass that is below 10 degrees. And then the offset, something is not.
General propagation เป็นโมเดลคณิตศาสตร์ขอบเขตของดาวเทียมโดยใช้2 dimension
Yeah, I'll try to fix this over lunch. Now we can see it on this.
มันไม่ได้ใช้แบบนี้นะ
So here is an example when I have multiple satellites. You can list, well, not infinite, but a lot of satellites. They are ordered by priority, so which satellite you for sure want to track. And then the other satellite said, okay, if it overlaps, if it comes at the same time, you don't mind losing it. So you can change the order with these arrows. Don't forget to save. When you have the catalog number, so the NORAD number, it automatically can get DLEs, but you can also type them. Here. Oh, mouse.
Masa, what about the time synchronization? When I used to do with the Orbitron, every time I want to track the satellite, I need to sync the time to have it like accurate, to have to sync with the time in the world. So is for this software, is it synced with time server or?
So the software, the server is installed with a connection to an NTP server. So it's called the NTP server. It is an internet server that tells you the exact time. So on an internet connected computer, if your ground station is connected to the internet, you can get this. But I understand that your ground station is not connected to the internet, so you need to have inside your network, entire network, an equivalent of an NTP server, and then you need to connect the computer itself. It's not about the software, it's about the computer. You need to tell the computer, so your IT department, network department, you need to connect the server to the NTP server you have in your network.
Does it affect so much if we not sync the time? Is it? No?
Because we cover all those things with the warm up and the cool down time, I don't think it affects much. Well, maybe after 50 years.
I see.
But it's not that critical, I think. On the satellite side, I think so because of GPS. The satellite is GPS. But here on the ground, I don't think it's very critical.
Martha, for one call you said about the priority of the satellite tracking. Can we like track satellite 1 for 5 and then include satellite 2?
So we have
Not the whole.
not the whole pass, yes. So because there's one thing which is this priority here. I'm gonna add a second one so we can do ARDA sub 4.
ครับผมเป็นเชื่อไม่ได้ ชื่อเลยชื่อ NTP server NTP เป็นเครื่องหน้าตา
ไอ้เรื่องนี้ที่เรามีปัญหา มีกล้องเราซิงค์ไม่ได้เสร็จแล้วซิงค์กับเซิร์ฟเวอร์ซิงค์กับเวลาไม่ได้ทีนี้พอมันซิงค์เวลาไม่ได้กล้องโทรทัศน์เรา
กล้องข้างล่าง
ใช่พอมันซิงค์เวลาไม่ได้แล้วเนี่ยมันแท็กเราเรียนไม่เจ
ไม่
อ
ได้นะไม่ใช่แล้วแหละเพราะว่ามันต้องซิงค์แบบเต็มที่แต่ว่าไอเนี้ย
แต่ผมไม่รู้ว่าเครือข่ายเราอะที่เวลาเราอะซิงค์กับสำนักมากหรือเปล่าหรือว่ามันต้องซิงค์กับสำนักมากนี่
Okay, it's not pushing.
ที่จริงเขา
เครือข่าย
สำนักมาก
Anyway, we can have a list.
สำนักมากกับ TBS
So this is an example.
ตรงกันนะ
My higher priority.
เพราะมันเป็นนาฬิกาตอม
ไอเนี้ยไม่เท่าไหร่เพราะไอเนี้ยมันคลื่นมันขยายมันแข็ง
Have you list of
เล็กน้อยไม่
satellites?
เป็นไรแต่ว่ากล้องมัน TBS
The numbers mean the priority. So every satellite is the first satellite I definitely want to track fully. and the other one is so and so.
ยังไงถ้าเราซิงได้ก่อนก็
And we
เพราะ
have
เป็น
here
สแตนดาร์ดที่
two.
ดีต่อไปในอนาคตด้วย
So if you notice on the AOS times and LOS
วันนี้ถ้า
times,
เราใช้ S band หรือ X band นี่มันต้อง calculate
I get my mouse as well.
เราลองต้องหาแพทเทิร์นให้ได้อะว่าจาก
This
เรา
guy comes at 9:32 until 9:43.
ใช้แต่ตัว
42. So
เวลา
AOS
ที่ได้
means
อะ
acquisition of
มัน
signal,
ก็ต้องมีเรื่องของเซอร์
So
เวอ
when
ร์เหมือนกันที่
it's
อันตราย
acquired,
เพราะว่าถ้าเกิดเราซิงด้วย
time of maximum
มันมีโอกาส
elevation.
ทำเจาะได้
so it's the highest 10 degrees is how it's, when it's higher, and loss of signal, so when it goes away. So we have a satellite from 9:32 to 9:42, but this guy is 9:30 to 9:42. They come at the same time for the location I chose. So the software is going to pick the one I pick most important. I pick this one as priority 1, and I pick this one as priority 3. So the satellite decided I'm going to just track this one. So it lists still everything here, but now it says this one is a green, and this one it displays it's this coming, but you don't have a way to follow it. So there it goes across.
So my question is, can you track galaxy for 45 minutes? Can you like
Yes, so there's here an override schedule. I'll get there, exactly. So in this case it's a full, so we full get this one and we don't get any of this. But I'll show you some slides, and this is also covered on the user manual.
Excuse me, 9:31 as an example. So the translation you track the third priority first or not?
See again?
At 9:31.
At night.
9:31.
9:31. Let me see the example.
The priority come at 9:32, right? So what will happen at 9:32?
Yes. So, but this counts. Very good question. Before the AOS time, we need to count for the warm-up time. We need to put it there before. So that is saying the tracking time. Actually, the rotors are going to start pointing at 9:29. Therefore, we can never cover the 9:30 and 9:31 because we need to have. Maybe we can try. If I lower the warm-up time, might get a little bit. Let's see, rotors, warm-up time, 10 seconds. See, now we can track PixArt. Because I told the system and it doesn't need that much time, so it's gonna track. If you see here, it starts tracking at 30, it's gonna stop at 32. Because at 32, 38 is immediately going to the next one. But 10 seconds might not be best, wise decision. But if you really want, and again, if you really want PixArt, we can still try the override. We'll see that.
A quick question, please.
Yeah.
For the NTP time that you get from NTP server, if we in the future if we have antenna that can transmit like more data rate, for example in the X band KUK, is it going to be more critical about like the time synchronization, or it's pretty much doesn't matter that much?
The computer, this is just for the computer, for the tracking of the satellite. It's not about the data.
No. I mean the time.
So you.
Okay, doesn't matter, right?
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Okay.
เราโอเวอร์ไรด์ได้ครับพี่
โอไหลได้ใช่ไหมสมมติเราบอกว่าพอ
พอแค่นี้
จะแข่งกันต่อไปเราโอเวอร์ไหลตรงมุมขวาไม่ใช่ไหมครับเพื่อประโยชน์ไหมหรือว่าก็เป็น
บางกรณีเลือกพอแล้วเข้าไปพอแล้ว
คอนมันหมดแล้วซึ่งดาวเทียมแรกไม่เสร็จแท็กกิ้งไทม์ตั้งนานเนี่ยมันเสร็จมูส8 นาทีแต่แต่ดาวเทียมที่2มันโผล่มานาทีที่2
เรายังแท็กตัว
มันจะมาใกล้ขนาดนั้นเลยนะมีโอกาส
ที่มันไม่มีแบบแรก
ใช่
เป็น
อันนี้คือกรณีดาวเทียมของคนอื่น
So
แต่ของเรามีอันเดียวไม่เป็นเวลา
here's the example that we have on this manual as well.
ที่จะซื้อมา
So we have here many satellites. So we have a QB50, precursor 2 and precursor 1. We have a Delphi, we have a FineCube satellite, then we have the International Space Station, which also has an amateur radio. So in this day, at this location, we will be able to track everything. All is green, all is good. So if we can track, it's at least 5 lines. The AOS, TME, LOS, acquisition of signal, time of maximum elevation, loss of signal, It shows the elevations. Obviously, start and end are 0 for elevations. And then the azimuth, so where the satellite comes from, where it goes. And as you're tracking, we also have the times for when it starts and when it stops. Associated with that, we have here the schedule data for the satellite. It's additional information. We usually do not need to pay much attention to it, but it specifies the next satellite or current satellite, the latitude and longitude where it is right now. So now it's minus 17 north and 351 east. The altitude of the satellite, the range, and velocity, range rate, azimuth, elevation, so it's not on site yet. If the rotors are flipped, so that's a good one. I'll cover that one shortly. And then also say path duration. So between 45 and 58, they're 8 minutes. The tracking duration, which is bigger because of the warm-up and the cool-down. And then the countdown for the 3 points. So this is what we usually pay attention to. When the operators need to be ready, satellite is coming in 15 minutes. Be ready. So because everything is green, this is blocked. There's no override option. There's nothing to override. Everything will go just fine. This is the color meaning, so it will be green with a tick if it all is fine. Green with a yellow is partially tracked. And then red, as we saw, if it really can't be tracked. So in the case, is one of them? Yes. So in this case, we have 3 satellites, or station satellites. They're coming really close times. I think I'm going to draw this because it's easier to visualize. So ISS is from 11, 16 to 25, so 16 minutes to 25. Fine cube is 18 to 23, so 18 will be here, 23, 18. And then QB50 is 19, so even later, up to 31. It's not that much. 31, 19. So what are the names? So these are the passes we have, which clearly all some sort of overlap. Because we told the satellite that we really want to track ISS, is priority 0, is the first one, you will do the full ISS. That's the first one it comes. So that one is green, it's gonna go. And then he's gonna check the other 2. So because he wants to do this full one, he cannot do this one at all. That's why it's red. And this one, he can do as soon as this guy ends. So the tracking will be this one, and then we'll swap, and we'll do this back. But imagine, like you were saying, today, I really want to try to get the fun cube. I think that's the one I back. Yes. Today, although I have this priority, I really want to have this tracking here. So for today, for this pass, I override and I push fun cube. So there's an option here. It lists the options that are overlapping. So potentially I want a full fun cube, or potentially I actually want this one, full this one, so you can choose. And when we choose this one, it recomputes. It changed. So now I'm saying I want the fun cube fully. So I want to do this one. No, I want to do this one. And then let's see what it says. This one you cannot do anymore because of warm-up time. Because to get to this one, I need to start pointing the antennas here for warm-up. So I cannot get to this one. And then, otherwise, yeah, by the time I stop this tracking, it's really close to the end. If it's less than 1 minute, we just don't track it. So by the time I end this warm-up, it's too late for this, so he goes for this one. He goes. So this setting we just put here, next time, as soon as this pass is over, it goes away. So if you want every day to get fine cube first, you go to the list and you swap them.
I have questions about our system. I think we have 2 ground stations and 1 controller, right?
One, so you have, because you have 2 ground stations, you're gonna have 2 of these.
Right.
1 mission control.
So can we track it separately at the same time?
Yes. So in your, for now you just have one satellite, so you'll just have one. This problem will not happen. You have two ground stations covering two, getting data to the mission controller. And you can command both at the same time from the two locations if you wish.
So it means like two ground station can track one satellite.
Yeah.
Okay.
What it means is that you're going to have duplicate information because the satellite is broadcasting. We're double checking that, but that should not be a problem. You should not end up seeing double numbers. We're checking.
What about uplink? You can only uplink
No, you can uplink on both.
both,
We'll see that tomorrow.
and the satellite can handle the command from.
It needs to be synchronized in a sense. Don't say turn off with one. If you say turn off with one and turn on with one, it will turn off and then it will turn on. For the satellite, it's like one. If you send from the left or from the right, the satellite doesn't care.
Can one mission controller control many?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The mission control will see tomorrow. So both this part you're gonna have twice. But then they're all connected with the same mission controller, and from one thing, from one window, you can command both stations and see data from both stations. But because this is really specific to these rotors, to this situation, this is separate.
Is it possible that
เราไม่ต้องเข้าเวรหลายที่ก็มีเข้าที่เดียว
can damage the radio of the satellite? Like someone put the high power uplink to the satellite. Is it possible?
Theoretically so, but the satellite's so far away, I'm not really sure if that's more RF questions we can ask. But our ground stations are limited to 40 dB, so that's not a problem. You can apply the maximum power of our ground stations, it will not damage the satellite. If you tweak the ground station or if you put other stuff, then I don't know. But our ground station is fine, you can push full power. Yeah? Yeah, so the thing about the rotor flips is that these rotors are elevation azimuth, so the rotor goes from 0 to 360. So like this, from 0 to 360. So what if you have a satellite doing this? The rotor cannot go all the way. So what we do is we flip it, and then it can go from here to there. That's what the flipping means. It's just a hardware way of solving the problem. That's what indicates here if the rotor is flipped or not. It's not relevant for operations. It's for the maintenance people. They get to know how the hard switch, where the hard switch is located. That's why you also there. But it's here because we determine if the rotor needs to be flipped or not based on the satellite location. So if the satellite is on the part that we cannot do, we tell the rotors, by the way, flip before the pass so that it works fine. That's why.
So when you do the calibration, they also calibrate the flip.
Yeah, when you calibrate it, it goes to no, not flipping.
ของเราดีกว่าเลย
It's a tricky visual.
แต่ที่มันจะหมุนกลับมาเป็นแค่มันก็เป็นวิ่ง
Yes, so let
หมุน
me.
กลับมามันช้าไงได้ก็ฟีดแบ็กสมมติว่าอันนี้เราเพียงผ่านมันซ้ายอ่ะอันนี้มันจะหมุนกลับมามันก็ฟลิปมาเลยสมมติผมก็กลับไปมาทางขวาอันนี้จะหมุนกลับมาทางขวาของมันก็มันจะหมุนพูดง่ายๆคือมันหมุนแค่100 ถึง 180พอมันเกินก็ฟลิปกลับมาเป็นเพียงหมุนได้110จุดเริ่มต้นนะมันตำแหน่งมันเดิมนั่นแหละมันไม่ได้บอกเป็นระบบหมุน
So, I'm probably going to go on this side. And I'm lefty, it's not going to work. North, south, east, oh damn it, east and west. So, usually the rotors are aligned to north. So the rotor can go from here, all around, up to there. And let's say we have a satellite, according to these points here in azimuth, not those ones specific, but a satellite comes here from east, it goes to west. Sorry, this is Portuguese. So the rotors can definitely do this. All fine, no problem. But now imagine that we have a satellite that actually comes here. So if we do the same thing, the rotors start here. They go. And now the rotors cannot go anymore. Hardware-wise, the rotors cannot go anymore. It is hard. It doesn't go. It's not like a infinite loop. It just goes one turn. So this doesn't work. So what we're gonna do is, instead, because the antennas are symmetric, if you point antenna like this or the antenna like this, it's the same thing. The antennas look the same, both sides, and they work the same way. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna tell the antennas go around, and then it looks like this. Then it looks like the switch is here. So the rotors can do like this. So for this pass, now the rotors can go from here to there, because we split the antennas. At the end, we put it back to it, so next pass is all fine. But it's because of that part that it cannot go any further.
So every time you're going to start a new tracking, it will go to the parking.
Yes, so except for the cases we see in these cases, from here to there it doesn't
continue.
Yeah. But if there's interval, it goes to parking. Yes. Nothing. Yeah. Everything in these two, as long as you set up, so the first things you will do is to set up. Anyway, on the software we shipped, there's no list of satellites. We'll try in the afternoon. So what we have to do as you start, you need to specify the satellites, the frequencies, the modulations. After that, it just works by itself. So just in the last 10 minutes before lunch, we can check this is the virtual counter. So, we'll see on the next one in a bit. So the virtual counter is used only for S-band, for CDHS. CDHS has a header, like these protocols always have a header. And one of the things it says is, which one is the virtual channel you're using? Virtual channel is a concept, is an indication that the satellite uses to say where the data is coming from. So, for instance, if we're transmitting on S-band and we're transmitting data from the main computer on a satellite, we are going to say we're using virtual channel 1. I picked a random number. It's the satellite software guys that pick that number. The number doesn't mean anything specific, it's just to distinguish. If I'm sending data from the camera that takes pictures, then I'm going to use number 2. So this helps you visualize where the data is coming from. So in this example, what we have is virtual channel 0. In this case, we allocated 0 for idle, which means the packet is empty. We're just sending radio frequency to make sure the satellite is there. And then virtual channel 2 is files are coming down. 3 we're using for testing. We're not using the others. So we're always going to be empty. So from this you can tell how many packets per second are coming in the last second, how many packets we got in the last second. What was the average rate? What was the average rate in the last 5 seconds? So it averages out the first column. The total, since you reset the display, and the timestamp of the last one. And then it totalizes here. And this number here matches, or no, it's not equal, but corresponds to the speed you're using. So when we're using 5 megasymbols per second, this is 2400. And then if you use half here, it's going to be half. And if there's a 4, it's a 4. And then this is divided as the satellite requires. This is satellite who specifies. So usually what we do, and I think is what happens also on the RTF satellite, we send idles, we send nothing, so that we know it's working. And then when we actually want information down, we use any of the other channels. If this is at 0, means we're not getting S-band link. It could be the radio, it could be the antennas eventually, it could be just a internet, network, network connection. But this is a good way to tell if we're getting data or not. And it also helps us see, okay, we are actually getting a file down. Or if it's one, okay, we are actually, the satellite is sending what we asked him to send. This one,
Does the separation of this VC or VC1 physically by frequency or just the ID?
no, it's just an ID. It's just an ID. The numbers are random. I mean, the software engineers assign them. Obviously, can be changed, no reason why.
In the header.
It's in the header. Yes, it's in the header. It's one of the things, because there are other things in the header. It's one of the things. So we also use this. If you get a bad link, if there's too much noise around, you're transmitting at the highest rate, and you get here at 1200, means you have a bad link. Means the whatever you're getting is bad quality. So it helps you also understand a bit what could be wrong. Yeah? I can show you this on the other computer, which you can also see. It's out. Technically, I could do this in the Windows, but I don't have the Windows set up for it. So. Okay, so this is the computer we're using.
So the reason you have many computers over there is one.
It's just me. I'm special. You know, everything can be done from the site. Everything can be done from the site. It's just I have a Windows with PowerPoint, and I usually work on Linux. So more of my settings, more of my network connections are on the Linux. But you can't do everything on Windows. Yeah, you can see there, exactly. So down here, you should also have one virtual channel counter. So this one is empty. This is also described on the Appendix A. So you will display here whatever also, is the picture also includes? Yeah, it also includes. There's here a different, the new feature we had recently, is the EV over M0, which stands for, exactly, thank you, this is my RF part. So it will tell the other one for the last packet we received. So it can also help the RF people or operators, if they know, to understand if it's good quality or bad quality. And if you right click, you can reset the totals. In this case it's empty, it doesn't have much. Okay, something else that we can see, which
This the VC counter is kind of tool for the maintenance guys to see the package or to see the qualities of the signal, right? But if you can check this kind of qualities in QFlex, maybe.
yes, you can also check directly on the QFlex. That's where I was going at too. This is easier, has less information. This is what we use on our operations. The operators look at this. For your operators, you can choose yes or no. This is because it's less information, it's simpler. There are other information on the QFlex.
So this is like dedicated to the payload data. So you see the package is coming down, okay or not, something like that.
So we covered now, let's go back to the first picture. We saw this one, and we saw this one just now, and we covered these LGSs. There's slightly different LGS for these ones with the QFlex. That's what I'll show now. So as you see here, there's an LGS controller. The one for the QFlex, I'm just going to open. The virtual channel counter and the radio. These are the 4 programs that you can have on our laptop. So this one looks the same. If you notice, there's a 5 here. So it's actually connected to another program in the back. And now there are different IPs here in the bottom and different ports because it's a different radio. This looks the same. Actually, there's different settings here. So if we add a satellite, we need to specify the other radio settings. There are other radio settings. And the radio setting, the radio is different. So there's a lot more options because we use a lot more options. Goes into S-band settings and encoding and Viterbi and all this radio frequency stuff that I will not dive into and I don't know much as well about. And you also have here some device parameters. If you see, you can change. It's changing. So it's a good way to see if the radio is connected, if this power level fluctuates. So these are the settings that you can see from the Qplex. This number here, the packet rate, is the same that we should see on the total on the virtual counter. But it picks this and it divides, in the virtual channel, it divides into the channels. So this tells you the settings you put in a radio right now. Here bar is what is detected, so we're not tracking anything, it's not detected anything. It also computes a Doppler shift. For the S-band radio, the radio itself, the Qplex, fixes for Doppler shift. So we don't need to instruct the radio like we do for the VU. So on the VU, here we compute what's the Doppler shift and we inform the radio. Here it does it by itself. Here's markup. So we just have an information about what the Doppler shift, the schemes that we can use, and this goes into code rates and roll-offs, and that's his RF. If you have specific questions, you can answer, but it goes into very specific stuff. This is usually not needed. It's just useful for when we get a signal problem in the beginning, we call the radio frequency people, and they understand what's happening. I don't understand much, but they like these values. So this is very simple. So you have two LGS controller types. There's no uplink, so it says you're not available. And the rest is the same. There's no rotors, because the rotors are controlled, as for the picture. The rotors are controlled by this guy. There's only one set of rotors, so there's no point in doing twice the same thing. So the page is blocked, you won't access it. And then the configuration should be the same. If you change the coordinates on one, you should also come here and change on this one. Anything you might want to take a look at, they will have logs on both of the LGSs. You can specify here if you want the debug messages as well or not. Warnings and critical, and you can click. So that's it for that's all the interfaces we have. In the afternoon we'll do exercises. There's some laptops here, and we can answer all questions you might have. Questions? Where's lunch? Yeah? Okay, then we'll see when lunch shows up for the user manual. You can check if everything is connected. You can see if the radio is connected to the LGS. And usually the problem is a network, or because we're talking about a connected station, if the IT department has resetted something, it might have dropped. Or so that's usually the line of checking. You just check the network, and if need be, you just close and start again. And then you usually check the software interfaces. So I'm talking about what we just checked this morning: the VU transceiver, the LGS controller. Does the radio display look good? You can check that remotely because there's that little display. Is the radio connected? Is the right frequency? If none of these two lines work, then we need to go further. I'd like to highlight for these two messages. So this is also mentioned on the user manual. There's some question and answers or frequently asked questions. This might happen with the VU transceiver. So if you're restarting the computer, this one actually not so common, but it might say that it does not recognize the device, does not recognize the VU station. There's a shutdown and a startup procedure in the user manual that you follow, and then it works fine. This might be more common to happen for people who are not used to the system. If you open two windows of the radio part, the one that has the frequency line, it complains. You cannot have two software screens open for that. So you can have multiple LGSs, but you cannot have multiple of that one. I'll show you again what I'm talking about. And if it does happen, it says address already in use. So that means you have two or more, you just close them all and open one, and it'll be fine. This is also on the user manual, so that's fine. If not all these remote stuff happens, then you really need to do hardware checks. You need to go on site. But in general, most of the checks we can do remotely. So once you get used to the system, you get to know, okay, the LGS tells a lot. The radio can be accessed via the remote connection. So there's a lot can be done remotely. Not everything, but there's a lot. So I can just show what I was exemplifying.
Starvation.
So if this window is open twice, which I can actually try here and show you. If I come to applications, if I open this again, it's gonna say this, address ready news. So you cannot have both open, you just press OK. It will still open the display because the display can open, it's just the connection to the back cannot. And you just close both of them to be sure that everything resets properly. Loading and in terms of the LGS, you can have as many open as you'd like in as many laptops as you'd like. We're going to try now the exercise and you can have multiple ones open at the same time. Wrong button. This one. So here we see the ticks. It's one way of checking if everything is connected or not. Another way is here on the radio. You see everything is displayed, all the identifications. But if I close, it goes to not available. So again, if you see not available, somebody pressed something. Easy to restore. Also in terms of the rotors, so they're usually in park position, or if you see that the displays or the numbers don't match what you're supposed to, you can compare them during a pass. This tab here, the tracking schedule, displays here the azimuth and elevation where the satellite is, and these numbers here. These numbers here for azimuth and elevation should match roughly with the azimuth and elevation of the rotors. Yeah, so this is mostly it. I'll push now for the exercises. So the idea today is to do some exercises on this. It's not daily operations, it's just to get the feeling on how the software works. I have here, is that on? No. I have here 3 laptops. Who would like to try? Or do we try one at a time and we project what you're doing? What would you prefer to do?
I try.
Yeah, you want to try? Let's see if you have battery. Let's see if we can start. More people want to try at the same time? Or we just see what he does? Let's try? Another one. Okay, another one. If somebody gets low battery, we got chargers. Password is student. All computers, password is student.
เอามาทานมาทานมาแปลบกใส่จบคำนี่ที่พูดเคลียร์ให้มุ้ง
It's okay. Nothing broken. Everything is working fine, and that's maintenance. You will pick what you want to send to the satellite in a human way, human readable way, and you will encode and actually send to the radio. And this guy is going to pick up the database, he's going to understand what's in the database, and he's going to send it here. So we can do plotting and show tables and show numbers for the satellite health. So this is just for telemetry, for the satellite health, not for the files. The files go through a tool. It is part of this. We do a closed loop connection. So we come to the data. What we command down, up, satellite up. What we command up to the satellite, it gets in a closed loop, so we know what we're getting. We get the full file. Because, as you can imagine, a picture doesn't come one time, in one way. I mean, it needs to come in very different little packets, and then we assemble together on the ground. So that's why there is more of a closed loop, and that's why we will practice closed loop with the satellites or the sample we have there. So, because you have two ground stations, you have these twice. There's going to be two equivalent softwares running on both stations, which means the mission control center will have 4 connections. That's what we'll see, and you get to see the status of these connections in the mission. So this means, as we've seen before, you can, at the same time, command through this ground station or command through this ground station. You can pick. For the satellites, it's kind of the same, right? As long as you're talking to it, you should be fine. In terms of data getting down, on the downlink, this station is going to get it and send it, and this data, the station is going to get it and send it as well. So this will have the 2 data. So if this one is down, at least you have this one. If this one is down, you have the other one. There's redundancy. Actually, if the stations are far apart, you might have one first and then the other. Duplicating information, like I said, we're checking to make sure that it doesn't come duplicated on the displays, because it's actually the same thing. So yes, these parts are duplicated, but as you see, it's only one mission control software. If you want another ground station in the future, you put another block here, still one mission control center. So the mission control center is called Meteor. I'm not sure how many have heard of it. It's a backend tool that works with Google Chrome. So here's Google Chrome. I really like to emphasize, because for some of us it's confusing, I'm not sure if for you it's also confusing, but there's really 2 different things. In the ground segment, there's the ground station stuff, and there's the mission control part. So what you can do in each of them, as we saw today, we can monitor and control the ground stations themselves. So on the ground station part, on the tools we saw today, you can check the radio settings, the other radio settings, you can check the rotors. It's specific stuff for the ground station. On the other side, with Meteor, what you can do is more satellite stuff. So on Meteor, you'll be able to send commands to the satellite. You'll be able to visualize the health of the satellite, telemetry. You can analyze it as well, so not only operators but analysts will be able to use Meteor. And then you can also do the file transfers, the image transfers to the ground or up. So that's really the main difference between the 2 tools. This is one, you have one that handles everything, and this is specific for ground station. Yeah? So this also comes with what I've been saying as well. This is only mostly needed for troubleshooting, while this is open during the pass. This is what the operators will be using, and this is what you actually interact with during operations.
Transfer files mean upload the schedule.
Yes, I think so. I'm not very familiar with the satellite settings, but I believe that schedule is sent in a file. So yes, upload scheduling, downloading pictures, asking the satellite what is your list of files, changing names of files, because sometimes we upload and then we want to change the name of the file. So everything related with files is what we call transfer files, and the commands is the classic telemetry that we'll also see examples. So that's what we're gonna focus from now on, and that's what we're gonna see a bit in the next half an hour. Okay. So Major DOM interface is via Chrome. There is Chrome installed on the ground stations as well, but as you know, Chrome you can access from any computer you have. Maybe now I'll duplicate the screen so I can see. So Major DOM, this is a separate tool, is one software for any ground stations you might have. Therefore, it comes in a separate server. So we have shipped a third server, which you guys are free to put whatever you like in the network. And you just need them to match the IPs, and it can be accessed from anywhere, which means also from you're gonna specify the web address that you use. So we got a suggestion from you guys on which web address to use. That's the one we set it up on Major DOM. It needs to be reject direct installation, and that's how you access it. So if you visualize what I see, which is duplicate. That's my page. Yes. So now we're not using the oil version because it's being shipped right now. What you're gonna do when you get there, I think the address was something like RTAF, and then something like this, some setup. For now, we're using our version for testing. And because this is a cloud version, there's a password involved. For you, there is no password involved because it's inside your network, so you already have access. We're going to do some exercises here, so I create an account for us. So this is the first page of Major DOM. You can have multiple missions if you like that. I think your version also allows that. We're going to do exercises under the user die-dem, so I don't have users for everybody. On your installation, there's also only one user, which we called RTAF Operation Center. It can be changed also if need be. But so you can list the missions that you have. And now we're doing RTAF training. And there's an error to start with. Okay. So this is the main page. Everything here can kind of be changed. It's very user-friendly. Everything I'm going to say here is probably going to be explained again during the on-the-job training, because the company Kubus is going to come to Thailand and explain this directly. So I'm the second source of information, not the first one. So no worries. I mean, it might be a lot of information. We will do exercises in any case, but you can hear this again when it's time for the actual operations. So communications means the list of commands. We haven't said anything yet. Events means what we're doing with the system. So we have here connections and disconnections throughout. That's the main page. There's a lot of editing allowed. We can go through this later, but now I just want to give a general overview how it looks like. So if this is the main dashboard where we are, there's a satellite list. For now we put RTFSat1. You can add more satellites. This is probably the only critical name we have in a software. The name of the satellite, if you change here, it needs to be changed in configuration files so that it links to each other. So perhaps let's not change. Or when you change, just be aware that other stuff needs to be changed. Then we have here a setting for ground stations, which we're not using, because we have LGS telemetry, which is this part. And they're little balls with the colors, which means if they're connected or not. So this tells me that I can comment because it's connected, but the telemetry is not running. So I'm not able to get telemetry down, health check down. We'll check what it is. And then we have the actual list of communications. So I have not sent any command yet. This is empty. We'll practice in a bit. This is the events. So it will show every time any computer is restarted. So stuff disconnects. This warns you about it. you have some part about the files, and then you have a tool for visualization, and then this is just the mission settings, which actually I'm not sure you have on this. So there's three main interfaces. There's the satellites, which will go into more detail. There's the satellites here. Sorry, these ones, the satellites. The ground stations here we're not using. And then we have the gateways. The gateways are connections that we developed here at ISIS. So there's the backend, those are the things and the programs I mentioned there for ground station. The backend, there's not much here to see except the green lights to see that everything is working. What we're going to focus mostly on is on the satellites. Any questions so far? So if we try the satellites, RTF, we have a list of commands that are kind of pre-prepared. But let's start with tracking, which is the previous one. So on tracking, you can actually visualize your satellite. Again, it works the same way as we did on the LGS. If you put an NORAD ID, it will track it automatically. It will update it automatically, and you get to visualize in the world. So what's the one you saw? 3396 update. So it displays where the satellite is, the coverage, and where it's going to be up to 3 times. You can change this. There is, full screen even. There's a lot of buttons to try. But then even on the first page, we can add the tracking map. Let's just put it down here. Okay. And you can say the propagation time, how much you want to visualize. So we'll see less or more. You can play with this, and even when you have it there's a lot of stuff you can play with to help you visualize what's happening.
Maybe Tom doesn't have like a function to see like a FFT graph and see stuff.
No.
See only the like.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but that doesn't happen.
What about the telemetry when it's download from the satellite ones, and from here you can click open it?
Yeah. So this is this page which now we don't have yet. I'll set it up for tomorrow or after tomorrow. This is going to list all the data we get from the satellite. So we have informed in the system, this is a configuration file explaining what exactly is decoded in the beacon, because you've seen we're getting the beacon down, but I'm not decoding yet. So we get that information, and then it lists here. It's like 1,000 parameters. Like Hugo talked yesterday, it's the temperature of the solar panels, it's the voltage, it's the temperature of the batteries, it's the spin of the wheels. All those things are going to be listed here. We're going to see tomorrow at a demonstration. And it displays one by line, so then it updates. We just have 1,000 parameters, which are a lot. And this is how you can see live. One of the ways to see live.
Yesterday Hugo he showed us he access to some database, and when you click it, it appears as like it's like have a green light, and this is show the interface like that.
No, it's not like that. What you have here is actually a more advanced one. That's one we use on other kinds of missions. And so this is making the bridge. This will show you a list of the things, but if you want something more advanced, there's another button here which is analysis, and we'll get to Grafana. And here I can show you. I might have it here. So, randomly speaking, I'm not really. This is a very simplistic example, which I'll try to build for tomorrow. This can be changed easily. So you can do tables with the telemetry. You can just display a number. This guy is save of time. You can do plots. In case it's static. But this is what we're going to practice with. So the page that Hugo showed is static. nobody can change that. It's just what it is. And with this tool, you can have multiple displays. You can have plots even, and it also allows for analysis. So not just live data, just for the operators. If somebody comes later, you can adjust the timestamp, and you can do all sorts of analysis with the data.
Does the major time limited to only Chrome?
For now, yes. For Chrome, yes. But so we'll try this tomorrow with more detail, and hopefully we'll get to see the data coming live. If I can use the to work just fine. Now I wanted to show you mostly is the commands. So the commands.
We can see here.
ยิปรัน Android ได้ป่ะรัน Android ได้ไหม
ต้องมี Chrome. What about we have a Chrome in our cell phone?
Yeah, it can work.
ก็คือไอ้ตัวในเจ้าคอมที่เราจะได้อะไม่ได้อยู่ในคลาวด์นะ
อ้าวครับพี่
ไม่ได้อยู่ในคลาวด์เพราะว่าเราไม่อยากให้เขาออกอินเทอร์เน็ตเขาคือให้มันอยู่ในแค่ศูนย์อวกาศ
อ๋อ
เท่านั้น
เพียงแต่ว่าใช้ Chrome เป็น Google Chrome เป็นตัวเปิดใช่ไหม
ใช่แต่ว่าของเราจะไม่อยู่ในคลาวด์เพราะฉะนั้นนั่นคือ access อินเทอร์เน็ตไม่ได้
ถูกต้องแล้วแหละสีเขียวเฉพาะเราไงใช่ไหม
คือถ้าเกิดเราจะนั่นก็คือ VPN เข้ามาเอาเลย
ถูกต้องครับ
เพราะฉะนั้นคือในสิ่งที่เขาสอนนี่คือเขาสอนเพราะว่าเขาเข้าไปอยู่ในคลาวด์ซึ่งเขาก็พูดแล้วตั้งแต่ตอนแรกแต่เขาเรียกว่าของเขาที่เขาโชว์มันเป็นในคลาวด์
Yeah, since the Chrome application you can open from everywhere. Just remember if your station is not online, you cannot access to the internet. But as long as you're in the network, any device, tablet. And also this one multi-user even friendlier. You can open
เดี๋ยวเรา
it.
VPN เข้าไปได้ใช่ไหมถ้าเกิดเรา
Many.
เพราะฉะนั้นเดี๋ยวต้องเซ็ตเข้าไป
How much does the major time allow user to make an adjustment to ground station?
Yeah. So so in terms of Grafana, so this display tool you can change everything. So I can come here and just delete stuff. You can have multiple displays. This is completely free. Tomorrow will take some time.
And what about the authority? They have a full access to the ground
Yeah.
station hardware.
That is a full access, I think. We can check with the guys if there's some limitation, but I also think it's full access. In terms of other settings on Major Tom, that will, well, now you don't have any display on telemetry, but we'll see tomorrow on telemetry. You can add some description if you don't understand what the parameter means. You can add units to it if it helps, but it's mostly static. On the commands, you can order them. So they're defaulted alphabetically, and you can, if you want, you can star them, and you push them up. But in terms of this star, this works for every, in case you have one user, so it applies to everybody that uses it. The difference for this one in Grafana, you can have multiple dashboards, so where you have here, start changes. This is a new dashboard that I have, just a simple one. So dashboards you can have as many, and the idea is that you'll set one up for the operators to use with the basics, and then you might have another dashboard for the solar panel specialists, or another board for the radio specialists, and they can everybody can have their own information. Everybody shared, but you can focus on what you like. So this is how the list of commands. This is very adaptable, let's say, because the satellite has kind of an infinite list of commands. There's many things you can do. For now, we try to group them as much as possible, so the list is shorter. It doesn't make it very difficult to scroll.
ตัว C2
But
เลยใช่ไหมครับ
for any requests you might have, probably can handle them and
ของ
group
ที่
them or
นี่
not.
ใช่ไหมแต่พอใน
I'm not sure how familiar you are with commands that can be sent to satellites. No,
คือตัว
no.
C2 เลย
So these are some of the ones we have.
ก็เหมือน
For instance,
แต่ในเวอร์ชันเขาคือสามารถสั่งได้จากคลาวด์เวอร์ชันเราก็คือ
let's check here the antennas, for instance.
จากวง
So every time the satellite, I'll push them up. So we
เราเทียมเราไงจะสั่งอะไรก็ได้
see them on top.
ถ่ายรูป
This is not the final list of commands for RTEP. This is a draft, so things might change. But most likely it's going to look like this. So these are 3 commands for antennas. If you just click on it, they will expand and ask you what settings you need to send. Most commands need to specify what you're talking about. Other commands, like this one, this has no arguments at all. You just want to disarm the antennas. What you have to do for all of them is specify how to send them. This is very important because according to this picture, you can only send commands this way. If you send a command this way, nothing gonna happen. So just pay attention to that. You want to pick the command option. And then in general you execute. What happens when we're gonna execute? It's gonna come down to this guy, it's gonna encode, it's gonna come to the radio, and it's gonna go out. The execute is immediate. You do that during a bus. So we're gonna execute, there's a little note that says you went.
So what is the queue? I mean,
In a bit. So now there's a list here. Actually it shows failed. Something's not connected. So here we'll show all the list of commands, which we can expand. It says there were no arguments, so I didn't have to add anything else. This is the ID of the command. ID since installation. So you might, I think on your system I tested some stuff, there's probably 10 commands already out. The errors, and who sent that? So it was this person here who sent it. We'll go tomorrow to the list of errors. So the errors mean something, it's something might be wrong, and tomorrow we will check this. The queue, which you just asked, is if you want to prepare. So if I can immediately press Q and it doesn't go, it's just Q. And then when I come here, which you should update, there you go. Now it's Q. Oh, zooming. There we go. So this is very good for operations, as you're going to notice. Buses are going to be like 8 minutes or 7 minutes. I'm not really sure how long they are. If you have to press a lot of buttons within those 7 minutes, you're not going to have time. So what you can do is you can prepare the command and queue it, and it's just here waiting, and it explains. So it not only says the commands, but it should say the arguments. Of in this case, there's none. And then when the satellite is there, when you really want to send it, then you execute the command. She goes to preparing, and now it's going to prepare. Anyway, well, it might be because one of you guys closed the VX receiver. Who has access? Let's see.
ง่ายดูแล้วมันง่ายมากเลยเบรกแล้วมันเห็นไหม20องศาง่ายเข้าส่งไม่งั้นมันไม่ทันกดแนวที่อยู่กับ ICQ ส่ง
Could one, who has the connection open? Could you close? Did you have it connection open? No, wait a second. Can you close this connection with this one? Yeah. There you go.
เขาจะมีแบ็คเอนด์
No, maybe are you guys connected? There's somebody else connected. Who's kicking me out? Do you have it open over there?
เปิดอยู่หรือเปล่า
เปิดครับ
You can close.
ไม่ใช่ไม่ใช่
Let's see.
มีอยู่ป่ะพี่
แต่มันจะมอน
No, you were out. You're fine.
ชัดดาวน์
ชัดเลยโชว์ครับพี่ผมติดโชว์
ไปแล้ว
ไปทิ้งเลยทิ้งมือ
So it doesn't seem to be open on that
เข้า
one.
ไงไม่รู้ว่า
ไม่รู้ก็ไม่ติดหรือว่าการที่เปิดอย่างนี้เองนะว่า
Ah, okay. I mean,
I think it น่าจะได้ยินในแอปอยู่นะ
ระหว่างต่อไปเลย
มีอันนี้ไม่เข้า
งงไอ้นี่
ยากง่ายมีลายไม่ได้ทำ
านน้ำเทนนิส
ไม่ต้อง
ก็ไม่รู้แล้วก็รู้ว่าชอบเล่นของ
ทำให้มันสวยพอเป็นสีอะไร
เอานี้เลยมีระดับเน้น
ให้มันดูดีๆอะไรเงี้ย
อีเวนต์
ใส่โลโก้ทออะไรอย่างเงี้ย
ถามเขาด้วยว่าเราเปลี่ยนเมเจอร์อื่นได้ไหมมันไม่ได้เกี่ยวกัน
I'll just go check with
เป็นเมเจอร์บวยอะไรเงี้ย
ไม่ใช่บวย
เมเจอร์ป๊อปอะไรเงี้ย
พี่ไปให้เมเจอร์ป๊อกเนี่ยแกในพ้นแล้ว
ไม่หมายถึง
เป็นจะลองต่อ
ไม่ก็
เจนเนอเรลป๊อกเนี่ยพี่
ไม่มันหมายถึงมันตั้งชื่อแบบเท่ๆไง
อ๋อเจนเนอเรลป๊อก
เราลูกติดเลย
ทีมแบทโหมดอ่ะ
ลูกติด
แบทโหมด
เจนเนอเรลป๊อก
เปลี่ยนจากเมเจอร์ทอมเป็นเจเนอเรลป๊อปได้ไหม
ค่าลิขสิทธิ์100,000เลยเปลี่ยนไม่เป็นปัญหาจะเปลี่ยนให้เลยค่าลิขสิทธิ์ชื่อ
ซ้อนกันที่เขาซ้อนยังไงก็คือซ้อนแต่ตอนนั้น
No, well, today is not helping. Alright, this is test setup. It's not helping, it's not on my side today. But tomorrow I'll get it ready. Alternative, other kinds of commands, most of them actually, will have arguments you have to put in. So that's where your knowledge is going to build on what it is. It doesn't mean that you need to know all of them. Usually also the specialists who instruct you to do this, they will know what they want, so they'll specify what it is about. This is the list that usually shows up. This is the way the list shows up. So you can have enum types, which I can select this way. So there's a list here of options. So exactly in this case, what do I want to which antenna do I want to deploy? Which side is it? AOB. This is not specific to the ground, so the satellite people will tell you about this. So the satellite will come with the specifications, which we will upload here and set all the options. But then you know or you're told what to select. There's also index here and user override feature not. But in any case, you can do the same thing and execute. And now when we go to the list, which will be failed. But now on this one, you can see what the person selected. Coincidentally, I chose all the zeros. But so you can see historically, days, months, exactly what has been sent to the satellite. And we'll see tomorrow when it actually goes forward, you will show the hexadecimal meaning of it without encryption. So you can set it. If you would like this, if you like Major Tom to display with encryption, so actually not understandable, it's also that something can be done. It was just a choice for now to show it as it actually means. Yeah, in this case, it's displaying some command definition not found. Or I can check in a bit. But yeah, this is it. This is mostly what we're gonna cover. There's many options for commands. There's some that require more typing than others. There are some that are more critical than others. Clear frame is probably something we don't want to do that often, but there's no parameters. There are others. Get min max, for instance, which has a lot of options. So we can go with, this is not the final list for RTF, so there might be slightly differences. Tomorrow we can go exactly how much you want to understand about these commands, how much is just commands that you need to know how to send. We'll practice tomorrow to send some. You will be able to access via the Chrome. Or it will work, we will transmit it properly. and we'll get some beacons down, and we'll see the telemetry coming down, and we can also see some files. So in terms of the files, if you go, this is the commands up here. You can go to uplink and downlink, and this is where we're going to handle files to download from the satellite, files to download from the upload to the satellite, and yeah. So tomorrow and after tomorrow is going to be mostly exercises, I'd say. Think exactly what you like to do, how much you want to understand theoretically, how much you want to just practice. I have some simple exercises really explaining which arguments to use, so it's very straightforward. We'll start with that, and then let me know how much and how little you would like to know. Any questions for what we've seen today?
When you make connect to the satellite and if know that like there is a file that the order the command asks the satellite to capture the image, and in those files you can see as the icon image, right?
Yes. So
Is it that you're going to demonstrate to us also?
we can try that. So what we can do, one of the things that we can do, obviously we're not taking pictures yet with the setup, so we can upload a picture, which you guys can pick from the internet, and we can download that picture, and then МeasureDOM allows us to visualize the picture as long as it is PNG or JPEG. So I know your camera also has other formats. Those formats can be downloaded via МeasureDOM. They will just show as a file name, it will be a file. When we download them as PNG or JPEG, or if we can convert them on the ground, then the picture itself can be visualized here, yes. Yeah. Well, if there are no questions, or if you like to play with it a bit, yeah, you can go on the laptops to this IC's МeasureDOM cloud. The applicable passwords are already logged in, so you can play with it. But if that's it, I'm sticking around as well if you have any questions, but then we'll resume tomorrow. Yeah? You're welcome. Share this.
มือถือด้วยเหรอ
Adjust the theme on the МeasureDOM.
I don't think so. The black is a bit much standard, yeah. But there in the fun you can play a lot. I'm gonna see what's wrong with the commands. Maybe I can show what transmitted.
คอมแมนด์กับเทอร์มินซี่มันต่างกันยังไงคอมแมนด์ทำได้เยอะกว่าอ๋อไม่ว่าความถี่รายแกรมนี่
คอมแมนด์เวลาที่อัพ
ดีอยู่อย่างเดียวใช่ไหมมันผ่านสีม่วง
ส่งไปที่ตัวนี้พี่คอมแมนด์ส่งไปที่นี่แต่ที่เทเลมินีบัสเซอร์ที่ส่งไปที่นี่
คือมันสั่งจาก
คนละอย่าง
ซี
นะ
ทูนี่แหละแต่ว่า
ใช่ที่ส่งไปคนไปที่ใช่คนละที่แต่นี่พี่ต้องการส่งขึ้นได้ไรพี่ต้องส่งที่บัสเซอร์แพ็กเกอร์แล้วมันจะส่งไปที่วิทยุแล้วก็ขึ้นอัพลิงก์ไปแต่ถ้าพี่เขียนไว้ในมันที่นี่มันส่งไปที่นี่มันก็จะไปแค่นี้
ที่มันมีให้เลือกระหว่าง
ใช่ครับมัน
คอมแมนด์กับเทอร์มินซี่
ใช่เนี่ยตัวเนี้ยที่ลิงก์เนี่ยตัวนี้มันคือมันส่งที่พี่อันนี้คือถ้าเป็น station command คือตัวนี้ถ้าเป็น station telemetry คือตัวนี้ ซึ่งตัวเนี้ยมันผมว่ามันไปยุ่งกับพวกเซิร์ฟเวอร์ไหนแต่ว่าตัวเนี้ยคือมันวิ่งไปตรงเล็กไปหาตัวทรานซิสเวอร์ซอฟต์แวร์คือทำแพ็กเกจของคำสั่งแล้วก็ส่งมาที่ทรานซิสเวอร์แล้วก็ดูมันที่ UHF แต่ตรงนี้ผมไม่รู้ว่ามันส่งไปที่ตรงนี้มันเหมือนเป็นเซิร์ฟเวอร์อีกตัวนึงที่เก็บไว้ว่าเก็บข้อมูลว่าถ้าเกิดที่ส่งตรงนี้เนี่ยมันก็จะไม่ไปไหนเพราะว่ามันมีบอกว่าถ้าที่ส่ง
บอกตรงนี้เนาะที่มันได้ในว่ามันชุดคำสั่งอะไรบ้างใช่ไหมครับว่าทำงานจะให้ทำอะไรบ้างเป็นนันทีให้ทำอะไรบ้างมาดูคือมันเหมือนในความรู้สึกเราทั่วไปเรื่องสั่งอันเดียวกันเลยคือสั่ง
คือนี่ผมเดานะพี่ว่าผมเดานะเลเมที่มันอัพมันเขาเรียกว่ามันส่งมาทุก5 นาที 10 นาทีมันก็ส่งมาออโต้แล้วก็เวลาจะเรียกดูมันก็ไปเรียกอีกอันนึงเรียกดูแบบออโต้ที่มันลงมาอยู่แล้วแต่ถ้าเป็นคอมมานด์เหมือนเราต้องส่งไปเองพี่ส่งไปเองเพราะฉะนั้นมันก็ต้องเป็นชแนลหนึ่งเดาที่เดา
ได้แล้วหายง่วงแล้ว
ถ้าเข้าใจแบบง่ายๆอย่างนี้ก็คือชุดสีม่วงเนี่ยคือชุดอัพดัน
ใช่
ส่วนไอ้เทเลเมตรีคือดาว
ใช่เอาข้อมูล
ที่มันส่งมาอยู่แล้ว
ใช่
เราเอา
มาดูใช่ครับใช่
Maybe even I don't know exactly what Marta planned for today, but maybe even already start working with some of the operation commands that you will specifically see for AirTrap. Yeah, we'll see. Then for the rest, so today will be about mission control. We also plan to have dinner, all of us today.